Hello. This video is to serve as a proposal for virtual reality to be implemented into the Vernon Township School District. For other school districts, this would also serve your purpose as well. This video is going to cover these topics: an overview, the benefits for learners, potential issues, cost, required training for staff, additional supports needed, research supporting virtual reality, and professional organizations currently supporting virtual reality. So, just to kind of cover what virtual reality is, it's been popularized in science fiction. You may know it from like The Matrix or Lawnmower Man, other hit cult movies. It recently was made possible through technological advancements designed for smartphone parts. There was virtual reality in the past, but it's now finally reaching the point where it's consumer affordable and worthwhile. This was kickstarted by Palmer Luckey and Oculus, which was later bought by Facebook for $2 billion. More competing companies have entered the market. Some things to keep in mind: all virtual reality headsets have some similarities. There are headsets that cover the user's eyes. There are two lenses that show an image rendered by a phone or computer. Headphones controllers can be added for increased immersion. And then the most important part is that it tracks the user's head and their movement. All right, so the main question to answer is, what are the benefits for learners? Um, the first thing that pops in my head is always the ability to see virtual places that are impossible in the traditional classroom. This includes virtual field trips and the ability to time travel, to see other eras, other time periods, to see cities, early cultures, and time periods that are not current today. And students can see places that would be unsafe: the inside of a volcano, the bottom of the ocean, war zones, things like that, or places that do not exist otherwise, that can only exist in a simulation based program. Students can explore no gravity, students can explore fictional worlds, settings from movies and plots from novels, things like that. Experiences are more memorable than reading or viewing traditional media. That is the main selling point of virtual reality. Advanced levels can learn to create digital content. So this could be something suitable for a high school level, where they could establish technological skills for future careers in game, video game, um, and movie special effects development. Other technologies can be linked to virtual reality or simulated within it. So think of driver's education class. This could all take place in the classroom, where students could see distractions, poor weather, and driving impairment, and how it affects them as a driver. They could all be simulated in the safety of a classroom using um, wheel, stick shifter, and pedals. Everything could be simulated. Students can model objects in 3D. And the nice part about this is it's much more intuitive. So a student using virtual hands inside a program would be able to manipulate objects more intuitively than someone that has studied a CAD program or something like that. And this can literally be applied to every single class topic, every single different content to study. Potential issues: student safety. You have kids wearing something that's covering their eyes and they're moving around in space. Other students cannot get in their way. Their room needs to be set up in a way where they are safe. The HTC Vive has a couple settings in that I'm going to get to in a few moments. Hygiene. Multiple people wearing the same thing. This is something that's on your skin. It touches your face. If you're moving around, exerting energy, you're going to get sweaty. So hygiene is a concern. I'm going to cover some solutions for that as well. Room setup. There are careful considerations need to be made to understand the space you need to allocate to a virtual setup. The cost of the technology is not cheap. Granted, it is much cheaper than it used to be, but it is still relatively expensive, especially if we're considering this per unit, if we want to get multiple units in a district. The time for students to use the technology. Depending on how many headsets you have, the time the students are using them, when they're using them, how long they're using them, all those things are potential issues in a regular school day. Teacher adoption rate. Some teachers may just not be interested, may not want to learn, may not be intrigued. Um, and unfortunately, until you see it, until you experience it yourself, you'd really understand the power of virtual reality. And content. Content is currently being created by game developers that have had development kits for a few years now, and there is not that much content yet, but there's more in the way. The more people that buy this, the more people that are developing, the more content that will be out there. There are companies out there that their sole purpose is to develop educational content, so more content should be on their way. Going back to the hygiene issue, this is a secondary product that could be added onto the HTC Vive as well as the Oculus Rift, the Gear VR. And what it is a waterproof cover that then allows the virtual reality headset to be something that could be wiped off quickly and easily with a hygienic wipe, like a Lysol wipe kind of thing. making it much easier. All right, moving on to costs. There are two types of virtual reality. There's a computer-based and a smartphone-based. I'm going to talk about smartphone-based first. Google Cardboard. This requires a smartphone, Android, iOS, any smartphone will do, and it's only about $15, which is extremely cheap as long as you have the cell phone. This may be an issue for school districts that cannot provide smartphones, do not allow smartphones in school. There isn't service, there isn't a Wi-Fi setup, things like that. The visuals are not that great on a Google Cardboard, and there is no positional tracking. What that means is if you are sitting, if you look up and left and right, that works. But as soon as you try to lean forward or move your head in space, it will not work. Picture your head being stuck to a pole, and you can only rotate left and right and up and down. The Gear VR, this is $99, and it only works with Samsung phones. That is the catch with the Gear VR. It is more expensive than Google Cardboard, but that price is going towards build quality. It is made out of plastic rather than cardboard. The lenses are much better, the clarity is much better, the comfort is much better. Again, the con with a smartphone virtual reality is no positional tracking, so your head is pretty much stuck on a pole. Going to computer virtual reality. The Oculus Rift is $600. Does not come with controllers. Those are due at the end of 2016 for the holiday season, supposedly. This company has been known for their delays, so we don't know if we can really kind of take their word, for that estimation. Sitting and standing experiences only. That is the only thing that they are targeting with their experiences. It is a very, very elegant design. It feels wonderful in your hands. It is comfortable, built-in headphones, very, very, very nice ergonomic device, but it doesn't feel so durable. It feels like the fabric on the outside could rip easily, become dirty easily. It does not feel that solid. The HTC Vive, this is my clear favorite for a school setting. $800, more expensive, but that is because it includes controllers. This offers also a sitting, standing, and room scale experience. What that means is that you can get up, move around, walk around, and you can experience a larger play space or an interactive space. That requires you to set up that area, but you can then use that area, which is great. I believe the maximum is a 3 meter by 3 meter space, so pretty large. Durable, hard plastic design. This thing feels like it is built to last. It could withstand hits, drops, things of that nature. The problem with the computer-based virtual reality setups is that it requires a computer, and it requires a very powerful computer. The minimum price for this currently in June of 2016 is about $800, and this is if you are building it yourself. If you were to buy this computer pre-built, it would be even more expensive, closer to $1,000. These are the main options by the big players. There are other companies emerging that are getting involved in virtual reality, but this presentation isn't going to cover them. So just to show you some visuals, here is the Google Cardboard on the top of the screen and the Samsung Gear VR on the bottom. So literally you could see that it is made of cardboard and the Gear VR is plastic. It's a little bit harder. You'll notice the logo on the side. It is powered by Oculus. The Gear VR experiences are limited to the Oculus store. Google Cardboard, you can get different experiences on the iOS and the Google Play store. Moving on to computer-based virtual reality. At the top is the Oculus Rift and the bottom is the HTC Vive. This is the current Oculus Rift setup. It is shipping with an Xbox controller and one sensing tracker. That is what this camera on a stick is. It is a sensor that is looking for the camera, and that's how it's able to do its tracking system. Later in the year, when the controllers come out, the Oculus Rift will include these. They're touch controllers. Notice there is a second sensor now. That is for them to achieve tracking through a larger play space. So just to kind of clarify a little bit, the red circles show the controllers for virtual reality, and the blue show the sensors, what allows the controllers and the headsets to be seen in 3D space. One thing I want to bring your attention to is that green circle there at the bottom. This is a camera on the front of the HTC Vive, which allows it to be activated so that the user can see what's in front of them. They can move around. It kind of gives them almost like this Tron-esque kind of view. So I'm going to show you a couple safety features. So HTC Vive, you set up a play space, and it is called the chaperone system. Those grids would appear when you get near the end of your play space. So if you set up walls, couch, whatever is in your way, whatever makes the boundaries of your play space, this grid would appear showing you where is the end, pretty much. When you activate the camera on the front of the headset, this is that Tron-like view I was telling you about. So you can see at the top of the screen some planets. This is in-game footage, and the user has turned on the camera, and now we see their desk. We see their room itself. So if you felt like you were about to trip over the cable, if you felt like the coffee table, the dog was walking by, something like that, a quick double tap of a button, and you could see this view. So room setup comparison. This is the typical room scale setup for the HTC Vive. The tracking stations or the lighthouse sensors are attached to the wall. Notice the plug the only plug that's required is a power cord. And what these are doing is these are sending out lasers that the controller and the headset are looking for. So if I go back to the image of the HTC Vive, these little dimples on the controller and the headset are looking for these base stations and the lasers that they're shooting out. And that tells the headset where it is in the room, where it is in this play space, in this grid. Here is an Oculus setup. Now, the one distinction I want to show you is here is the sensor right there, to make it a little bit more clear. So now on Upload VR, this writer, in my sources that you'll see later, attempted room scale tracking with one tracking sensor. He tried it on his desk like this, and then he tried it elevated like this. And the reason why he's crawling on the ground, it looks kind of silly, is he's trying to see just how low he can go while the tracking still works. And it does work. But the problem is this wire that's going across the screen. This wire is a consideration if you were setting up room scale, where going back to the HTC Vive, the only thing required for these base stations is power. The Oculus Rift requires you to run a USB cable around the room. This is not as easy to do. The other thing to consider is this sensor is connected to the computer and is only looking for one headset. These base stations are passive devices. They're plugged in with power, and that's it. So if a school were to set up these base stations, they could have multiple computers and multiple headsets all in one room using the same tracking system, making it much easier, less clutter, easier setup. Required training. Staff would need to know how to manage the software that they're using. If they're using Steam VR or Oculus Home, these are each product's distribution platforms. They would need to understand how the software works, how to navigate it, how to manage it. They would need to know how to manage the hardware, how to power up the head-mounted displays, their controllers, and to turn on the controllers, syncing things, basic things, just pushing buttons, but they would need to be aware of those things. Basic troubleshooting, issues that come up that are common, although minor, could, trip someone up if they were unaware. And then also how to properly clean and store hardware. Additional supports needed. Installation help for teachers. Not every teacher is going to know how to properly install the base stations or the tracking sensors in the optimal area. Troubleshooting support for teachers in case they run into problems. Smartphone devices and chargers if you're going the mobile VR route. And if you're going with the computer-based virtual reality, you're going to need the space. That is a big consideration. Small dedicated area in each classroom, or what I picture a better implementation would be a larger virtual reality lab. This could be a place that teachers sign up for and they go to. There is an expert there that can help them. This would be cheaper because there would be one room that could be much more manageable. Trained staff could be utilized to make it much easier to be used and to ensure adoption. Make sure that teachers don't get frustrated because things aren't working, they don't know how to use it, they don't want to do the training, that kind of thing. This is similar to a library. We have an expert in a library that helps people use the library, so very similar idea. So some research. Now, when you start looking into research right now, the problem is it's a little bit outdated because it's based on expensive technology from the 1990s that really wasn't that great. Poor graphics, poor programming, and again, not a lot of content. So the research aspect is a little tough right now. Looking at a few things somewhat recently. So in 2008, this author, Dr. Vervu, wrote on the usability and likability of virtual reality games for education, the case for VR Engage. So right off the bat, this was in 2008, but the graphics in this game on the bottom are very rough, so I want you to keep that in mind. So the likability is proportional to the sophistication of the VR environment of the game. Moreover, if VR education games are designed to reach a high degree of sophistication, they will be quite competitive to commercial games of no educational content. This will provide the asset of having educational applications that can be equally attractive for the students in the school classroom and at home. In this way, the potential users will be more motivated to make better use of both their school time and leisure time to the benefit of educational goals. So what this basically is saying is that if you are able to create an educational experience to a similar quality of the consumer-based games that students will be playing at home, you will achieve student interest. This will motivate students to give it their all, to be completely engaged, and get the most out of these virtual experiences. A second study that I found from 2015, applying Dale's cone of experience to increase learning and retention, a study of student learning in a foundational leadership course. So this was a survey based on user experiences, what they felt, what they thought about experiences after using them. So the results established that students confirmed that experiential activities significantly enhanced learning outcomes. So now keep in mind this was based on what users felt occurred. Here is the cone of learning according to Edgar Dale. So if we look at the top, 10% of what we read is remembered 2 weeks later, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we hear and see, 70% of what we say, and 90% of what we say and do. So the doing is the aspect that we're looking at with virtual reality. We simulate students doing something, making it much more memorable, much more engaging, and much more lasting. And my final piece of research support is from Jeff Jacobson, Executive Director of Boston-based Public VR, a nonprofit organization involved in research and software development related to virtual reality and education. Anytime you want to have an inside view of something, an atom, a magnetic field, the human body, or a building, VR is really going to help you. For anything having to do with simulation of active things like physics, problems, or climate change patterns, if being in the middle of the simulation is helpful, then VR helps you. So picture all of those videos that we watched as kids in science classes, showing you what it was like I'm thinking of the Magic School Bus. Virtual reality will show you that in a personal, simulated way, making it much more powerful, much more realistic, much more engaging, much more lasting. Looking at professional organizations that are currently supporting virtual reality, and honestly, you would be hard-pressed to find a company that is not supporting virtual reality in some way. Media, educational, and entertainment companies are all diving in. So you may recognize a lot of these logos. Looking at these logos, we see Facebook, HTC, Valve, Adobe, Apple, IMAX, Microsoft, Google, Discovery, GoPro. These are the big players. If we look over at the virtual reality company, this is actually a Steven Spielberg-backed company, showing the power of it. The Void up here, what they're doing is they're creating their own virtual reality head-mounted displays. They're using computers in backpacks, allowing for users to walk around in a space without any wires, allowing for incredibly large room scale tracked scenarios. The second thing that they've done is, excuse me, using their tracking system, they have set up blank walls. So when you reach out and you touch a wall in virtual reality, you're touching a real life wall. So using all the senses to increase immersion even more so. Here is a look at my sources that were described in this video. Thank you for watching. Virtual reality is a powerful, powerful educational tool that should be implemented into the Vernon Township School District, as well as any school district that is interested. Although the adoption cost is pretty significant and there are many factors you must consider before doing so, it could be successfully implemented into any school district as long as they budget for it, and it could have very, very lasting and very real, very worthwhile experiences for their students. Thank you.